We are lighting the candle, a world that works, and today we have a very special event planned. It's going to be my buddyette, Lisa Sheehan, and myself, Bill Carell, also known as me. And we're going to have an hour to just kind of get into some things that we might not normally focus on, or perhaps there are some questions that each of us has for the other, given the way things have been going, since we've known each other. And I'm leaving it kind of wide open, uh, simply because I think that where we are at this point, I think we're at 137 episodes so far, which is fantastic. And if you remember, we started this set of conversations to have a frequent opportunity to sit down and engage each other and see if we can do some generation of empowerment. Now, the theory is that if we're getting it done for each other and ourselves, then there's benefit for you too as a listener. And so we're always going to be speaking with you in mind in the future that you're going to be listening to this. And at the moment, I want to examine um, a couple of things that I think they're important to me right now. And one would be friendship. And the other one I think would be probably intimacy. And those two topics, I think, are there's no one on the planet that I'd rather engage those two topics with. Lisa, you're such a life scientist, and you spend so much time, questing for, like how to continuously be at a place where you're in wonder. I mean, this is me describing how I see you, but you are questing for wonder all the time in my book, and I think it's fantastic. I believe, and I'm going to just turn myself in right now. I believe that having a childlike quality of being extremely excited to see familiar people and to go out and to do things that have been done before and to have it be a completely new experience is, I think it's fresh, and I think it's a great way to live. And so whether you like it or not, you don't get a vote on this, but that's who you are for me.
Well, and of course, as the universe always does, I've been reading a book and I just there's a couple paragraphs that I thought this would be perfect to read to Bill. And
Yeah,
guess what it's about?
I can't wait.
Wonder.
How about that? I
So would
like
you
to
like
say that I'm a pretty good listener sometimes.
well, we need you to man the boat, so
Exactly.
would you like to start with that or do you want to start
Oh,
someplace
yeah,
else?
absolutely. You've got the floor.
Okay, the name of the book is This Here Flesh, and it's by a brilliant young woman called Cole Arthur Riley.
Mhm.
And I just love these. Well, I mean, I the whole book is basic. It reads like poetry. It's just amazing. And I think we were talking about the English language, and it just the other day I was marveling over the fact that we have 26 letters, and out of those 26 letters, we make such a huge variety of there's like endless variety of words almost, but
It's
how the
true.
people string them together always amazes me. So this is, two paragraphs that stood out to me this today. Wonder includes the capacity to be in awe of humanity, even your own. It allows us to jettison the dangerous belief that things worthy of wonder can only be located on nature hikes and scenic overlooks. This can distract us from the beauty flowing through us daily. For every second that our organs and bones sustain us is a miracle. When those bones heal, when our wounds scab over, this is our call to marvel at our own bodies, their regeneration, their stability or frailty. This grows our sense of dignity. To be able to marvel at the face of our neighbor with the same awe we have for the mountaintop, the sunlight refracting, the manner of vision is what will keep us from destroying each other. Our caution is not our caution is to not become those who focus on beauty in order to dismiss tragedy or to disguise feelings of their own inadequacy. When we see ourselves when we ourselves feel ugly and insignificant, or the pain of the world feels unbearable, it can be comfortably it can be comforting to talk of mountains and sunsets. We train our focus on beauty here or there, this poem, that architecture, because it is easier than hearing witness to our own story. We begin to gravitate not toward beauty, but toward illusion. In this state, you are not approaching what you seek. You are running from your own face. But this is not the way of wonder. Wonder requires a person not to forget themselves, but to see themselves so acutely that their connectedness to every created thing comes into focus. In sacred awe, we are part of the story.
Yeah. It brings to mind, philosophical discussions and readings that I did going all the way back to junior high school. And the whole notion of um rediscovering where you are and can't put a name with it, but I'm not quite as good at remembering who I read and when as Ken is, but because
Mm,
he's a black belt in more ways than one. And what I remember is that throughout your entire existence, and this may be a Buddhist philosophy, but throughout your entire existence, you will seek to try to understand others, and the in the end, you will only discover things about yourself, simply because our existence, no matter what it is, even people that are crazy, it's an existence. They have something going on in their lives, and I don't mean crazy in the sense of angry or upset. I mean crazy from the standpoint that they would be unable to find somebody around them who would call them normal. A lot of times, those guys are great leaders, you know, and they are those folks that practice visionary uh, pursuits, and they spend their time bringing ideals and ideas and things into existence in the physical form, and they are surrounded by people who are visionarily myopic, the folks who basically say you can't do that and here's why. What I love about what you're saying is exactly um, I guess I did come into the same area code, didn't I? And maybe even to the right parking lot.
mhm.
But the point is that it's the science isn't look for something that's extraordinary. The science is to train yourself such that everything occurs as extraordinary in your life. I get goosebumps thinking about that. I mean, like right now, the on
Yeah.
the top of my head, my hairs are standing up, and I don't know what more do you have to say about that? That's a great reading, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, the whole book is like that. And I've only gotten through I'm not even like 100 pages of it, and there's so much more to go. But um but that's become like a sudden, although I liked to think that I had practiced trying to or trying to practice wonder, I should say. Um it's like a recent phenomenon that I realize that I am noticing the extraordinary in the ordinary. Like simple thing, like in just a twist of mindset, like I like to cook, but I think um often people turn something into a chore or something they have to do. And and it's the slightest variation, because I was thinking, "Oh, I have to cook something," but I went, "No, wait a minute, you like to cook, so why is it this you have to cook?" And then all of a sudden it shifted from, I get to cook, and like everything is taking that subtle shift all of a sudden, and it's kind of amazing, and it's turning off my negative thinking almost, like my instant grasp towards the negative, or at least towards self-sabotage maybe. It's shifting, it's not there anymore. That kind of voice is going away, and I mean, this, obviously this it for me, it took a lot of practice, and it took a lot of podcasts listening to and a lot of books to read and a lot of people to connect with and discuss these things with. But and now that it's happening, it's like, and now I see what other thought leaders are saying, or other motivational people, or other higher level divine thinkers are saying.
Yeah.
I'm catching on to what they've all been talking about, and now it all makes sense. Every single one of them, when I listen to them now, it's like, oh yeah, I get that. And it sounds so simple. Some of it, change your thoughts, change your life, but that's really true. And it's just different variations on that millions of people have come up with and motivated people to think about, but you don't know which one's gonna make that switch for you. And I can't even pinpoint the one that actually has, and I think it's just a culmination of everything, and my particular cocktail, let's say, of of motivational readings and lessons.
I've got a theory about that. You
Okay.
interested?
Yes.
So what if our entire training up through the age of when we decide that we want to have some enlightenment and generate our own empowerment, what if that whole period of time is a set of practices and habits that we have to acknowledge that are actually there, and to realize that they're just conversations, that the correction to a conversational misguidance or thought uh you know disturbances or anything that's there, that gets in your way of experiencing and being mindful to the current present situation. So there comes a point in time when, I guess, and it's usually going to be in a conversation, could be with somebody else, could be something that you just generate in the moment and just basically say, I guess I'm done giving away the responsibility for this, because I look at that responsibility like it's a burden. And quite frankly, it's just the opposite. I can give a gift to myself in any moment, and I need to be awake to do that. So how much am I willing to bargain away the laziness, the sloppiness, and the lack of responsibility in saying that somebody else is responsible for the bad day I'm having?
Mhm.
And that basically says I've given up on having anything other than this bad day that I'm telling you about? And the neat part of it is that that's all a conversation. They're just sentences. They're sentences going through your mind. The language, the linguistics, the habitual thrownness to a particular, as you said, my self-sabotage, until you realize that the self-sabotage does not physically exist. You can't go locate that anywhere in the universe. We cannot cut you open and find self-sabotage inside of your head. It's just not there. It is a stuckness in a sentence, and then for it's brilliant for you to say, okay, so I'm off that it was there for an instant and I don't need it, it's gone. Now, holy cow, I can't believe it, I'm actually having fried eggs and ham. What the what?
Green eggs and ham.
Yeah, you can have green eggs too. I mean, this is your world, have it any way
Right.
you want. So the whole point is that at some point, let's say you either, like the complaint side would be tired of, and the joy side would be, like, holy cow, I'm awake for the first time and I don't remember when, and there's nothing here. There's really nothing here. I can do anything I want to right now with this moment. And how am I going to spend this moment? Wow.
Just one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver will say. It's true. I mean, even if you believe in multiple lives or past lives or future lives, even, you only get one as this entity. So I, and I suddenly am able to, like, say the word God and not worry about what it means to everybody else. I know what it means to me, and I wanna live my life as if God can see it through my eyes. So I wanna this is my latest thing. I wanna show him a damn good time. So
If he's coming along for the ride, you're going to make
yeah,
it worth coming.
right.
I like it. And I think that's also it's audacious and could easily be misunderstood. We're not talking about the new age notion that you and I are God. That's not the point. The point is there is something that's driving us to take that next breath. There's
Mhm.
something that's driving us to, you know, to want, and there's something that's driving us to aspire to new levels of experience and knowledge and understanding. Not because there's gold in them thar hills, but what else would you do? Show me a good alternative. If
And
you
I
can have
think
the
that's
time of your
yeah,
life just playing, I mean, why not?
and I think that's, the whys are, WHYS are the one things that are put upon us since, like you said, like, that young age, and that you start believing that that's why you're here.
Yeah,
Those are my whys. This is what I have to do. This is why I have to do it. And, the simple thing of the day is not my own because I'm not overly thrilled with the job I have. So Monday through Friday was not my in my head was not my own. And then I switched that by waking up early in the morning, which I convinced myself that I was a night person. And now I'm suddenly not. And I just keep adding things to my day that are mine. I
yeah,
still have to work, but I get it done actually with a much more cheery disposition than I used to. And it once when it's over, and I get to do my things again. And my things are taking on a way more uh, joyful and wonderful aspect. And there's just no end. I mean, it's become awesome.
well, it shows, obviously. And I think the really neat part of it is that you can refer to any of that knowledge or understanding on any of the words that we've ever talked about, including our inquiry into boundaries, in the last podcast. This is not it's not a medium of exchange. I can't give you a pound of boundaries and you take it from me and you have the exact same weight and measure. This and when you say God, I think God is a good place for focus, where God is what it is for you that makes you realize that you are special in that you're here in the first place, and that every single moment that you get being alive and sentient and breathing, it's not a gift, it's absolutely a magnificent win. I mean, you've hit the lottery.
A miracle.
It- I like it. Absolutely a miracle. And if you're aware of that, it's not hard work to continuously experience miracles.
Mhm.
It's actually hard work to resist that.
Which is so much fun.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that would even be a good game. Try to make that not a miracle. Go ahead, I dare you.
Yeah, yeah. So what's the thought, the unspoken thought behind why you want to experience that as a not a miracle? Oh, there's a scarcity of miracles. Oh, this might be the last one, so why spend it here? I mean, seriously, guys. You do have to laugh. You really do. It's it's very comical. So, the synonyms like wonderful and marvelous and stupendous and supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. At the end of the day, whatever that means, I think that's probably came out of court, but at the end of the day, there's only one person who's going to be able to evaluate the quality of your existence, you know? And you need to do that on a daily basis. You need to be like a quality control inspector on how marvelous your life is every single day. And, noticing where your internal conversation and what's going on in your interaction around you, like it's brilliant for you to say, well, I really didn't like my job. Well, I don't know if that's, um, how about you didn't like who you were while you were doing your job? Or another sentence that's like that, because it's like, I have this definition of love. When I say I love you, what I mean by that is I love how I feel thinking about having you in my life. And
Mhm.
I love that. So I love you. And that's me being responsible for generating that love as an authentic, in the moment, fully mindful sentence that I can stand up to anyone and back it up. If somebody says, "Well, Bill, you don't even know me. You can't possibly love me." Well, let's see if we can investigate that just a little bit. And I can come up with at least a dozen or 15 different reasons why a total stranger would be completely awesome to me and I could immediately fall in love with them after only hearing their name. That they exist, that name is a location in the universe somewhere to accept and generate empowerment and love. I have to love that. That's what I say. And,
I like that.
so, we haven't had this conversation before. We've had many similar to it. And at the moment, we're having a real playful discussion that for most people sounds like it might be, philosophical gobbledygook. However, when you and I are by ourselves, we are by ourselves until we choose not to be by ourselves. And when you notice that it's not working for you to be by yourself, I'm pretty sure you go out and you find a half dozen friends to go and just plain have miraculous times with.
And it is miraculous because I mean, just today I was, got the opportunity to buy tickets in advance to a show. And they were expensive, so I have, like, one friend that I know she would want to do it. So suddenly, I'm looking at my calendar, and now there's something to do in June, but my life, that's how it happens. So all these things start coming into place, my calendar starts getting full, and everybody goes, "How are you doing so much?" Or, "Where are you going this weekend?" Like you said, and it's just because every day something comes up, and I'm saying yes to it, even now I don't question it, I just say yes, and so it's just everything starts to flow, and we've talked about flow before, and it is that kind of feeling where nothing everything and nothing can happen, and neither one make a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the nature of energy.
Mhm.
Energy doesn't live at any particular address. It's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It is there when it's not being recognized. It is what keeps things in motion. And this is a big, wide, wonderful universe that we really take up a very small amount of space, given what's available. There's a lot of real estate out there in the universe, right?
Mm.
So when you're thinking about the flow and the things that are in your way, and this is a lot for you folks at home right now. I guarantee every one of you has a place in your life that if you were to turn, 18 times in a circle, you would say, I can't go there at one of those points. We all have that. Well, the advice is that pretend it's exactly like all the other places where you say you can go and then go there
Right.
and recognize that, that old saying, we have met the enemy and they is us. There's nothing there. There's nothing in your way. There's no negative outcome that's out there before any action takes place. There's only action and reaction, and then another reaction. We're just playing this huge pinball game.
Mhm.
You can't hit the pinball necessarily the same time, two times in a row, if ever. Yet we think it's miraculous when the pinball goes where we want it to go, and we think that we have some skill,
I love
right?
pinball too. Pinball is one of my favorites.
Yeah, how much can you bump that machine before you tilt it? I mean, there's just all of this nuance that, we're here and we're getting experience, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. Isn't that the nature of the universe?
And that's a good like, a good analogy too, because like, if you hit it just right and all of a sudden you discover a new pocket or a new lane that it can go down and give you extra points, which you didn't know was there kind of thing.
But yeah, and then of course we're going to spend some time admiring it, feeling really good about it, feeling self-satisfied. It's kind of like we've got a car in the driveway that won't start. We go in and we put something in the dishwasher, we go back out and the car starts and we think it has something to do with the dishwasher.
It could.
Don't we behave like that sometimes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But
It
I
could
like
make
that.
us very it could make us very comical, and it's also not something to fret about. It is that the ability to laugh at yourself, I think it's not only charming, but it's also life-giving, you know? Take a moment, you're feeling sick to your stomach, and then you suddenly are laughing.
Well, then there's that
You can't.
mindset thing too, because the philosophy thing is like, to take a break and say, "Okay, what would a wise person, wise woman, wise man do in this situation?"
Yeah.
And now that voice is coming like almost comically answering me now. So I said to some a friend of mine, I said, "I don't like to be taken aback. I don't like to be taken like if somebody throws me off by saying something that I had no anticipation of hearing, and then I'm thinking that and I said it and then I thought about it again and all of a sudden the voice inside my head goes, "But you like surprises."
Yeah, and what kind of magical thinking is it for you to, prognosticate that you'll be ready for most conversations in the
I
beginning?
know.
No idea what's coming, you know?
And surprised that I'm surprised. It was kind of like a silly
I
thing, but
like it.
now but you like surprises. Let's look
Yeah.
at it that way.
Well, another learned I've used this before, but another learned friend of mine used to say, "The truth will set you free, and first it will piss you off."
Yeah.
And the whole
Mhm.
idea of that is that you can't um, always and everywhere control your reaction to something. However, you can do something about the next thing after the reaction. The triggering and being set back on your heels, that's one thing, and that's very human. That's what we all go through. Now, are you going to have a thought before you do the action, or are you just going to act reflexively? That's where you and I have this opportunity to build in some choice. Take a few minutes and start listening to the Jeopardy music, and then say, okay, what's up with this? And you can do that in an instant. It takes longer to say those words than it does for you to basically say, all right, so that didn't work. And now what? And boy, am I funny. That shouldn't really upset me, but here it does. What about that?
And that was like one of the philosophy lessons too is because most people, you instantly go to negative thoughts, which is actually, how we're made up. Our brains are just designed to do that to us out of you know, an odd sense of protection. But negative thinking in philosophy terms is that the result is endless suffering and ignorance. So, like you just said, ignorance is ignoring something. So, if you ignore the first time it happens to you, and then you keep letting that negative response happen, you're ignoring, you're becoming, and you're suffering. And then that was one of the things that stuck in my brain too, because I'm like, well, this doesn't even make any sense. Why am I? It's not helping me at all to do this. And brain, why are you doing that? And then you stop giving it power, and it withers. It stops happening. Now, I do have a voice in my head that I can't figure out when she appears quite yet, but I call her the Countess because that's all she does is count. All of a sudden, I'll find myself going 91, 92, 90 in the back of my and I'm going, "When does she show up?" Because I have to figure that out, but I adore her, so I'm trying to
That's
figure.
very interesting. I'm thinking about, the psychologists call those thought distortions. And what it means is that there is not in any way, shape, or form any factual reason for that thought to be there in the first place, except for It's the one you had. Now, do you empower it by, you know, being afraid or by being upset or, some sort of a negative reaction? Or do you basically, there's no point to saying, well, that doesn't matter and I'll move on. What makes a better decision is to replace it with a new thought. Like I'll never lose weight. Well, I'll never lose weight if I don't try,
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
and I'll tell you what, there are a lot of people that would they would rather be in the familiar zone of being unhappy and upset than to take a chance and find out that they're not right. And being right is unfortunately the booby prize.
Yeah,
Being
right,
right gives you the life you're stuck with that you
right.
can't stand.
Yeah, you don't win.
Right, but you don't even realize that it ain't about winning. It's about experiencing. It's about having the lightness of being. It's about, you know, pure, unadulterated, unaffected, and absolutely authentic joy, where
That's the
you
goal.
can give yourself goosies at any time during the day that you want to. What a powerful thing to do, don't you think?
Oh, I know so. It's why waste your life doing anything else? Like, it sounds, like even when I was hearing it before, or it sounds so simple, or, the famous people that have done it that, well, they're famous. They got there somehow, they didn't start where I started kind of thing. It's always that way. They had some benefit that I don't have. And I know I went through that probably for God knows way too long of focusing on that aspect of it. And now, like I said, I've realized that everything they're saying is true. It just, Martha Beck, who's, like the life coach of the century or whatever, but because she's been doing it for so darn long. And but and she literally talks about the flow, like, you still have the same chores to do, you still have the same if you wanna label them as such, you still have the same things to do throughout your day, but suddenly they take on a new meaning. They're just and they you do it better, you do it easier, you do it it flows, there's no hindrance to it, there's no ick to back you out of it. It just you start doing things that you considered before meaningless or trivial, and they start taking on like, "Oh, this is a cool part of my life. I get to do this." I think that's my phrase. I get to do this. I can act this. I get to do that. You know.
I do know.
I know you know.
So I have some really excellent news to share. A couple of things that all, again, converging at the same time. First of all, we've been planning to have a family reunion again. We've done it every 5 years over the last 20 years, and it was supposed to be last summer, and it's actually going to be this June. So we've got all of the stuff for that logistically, where we're going to stay and how we're going to go from Denver to Omaha, Nebraska, and back to Denver and all that. So we've got that conversationally. But the really cool part is because we were asking questions about that, we got into the conversation about my two grandsons, Lincoln and Jackson, coming out to spend 2 or 3 weeks with us, right? So we booked their travel yesterday, and they are going to be flying cross country. It's a one hopper. I mean, you get on and get off in Hartford, so they'll be fine with that. And their mom and dad have traveled with them so much. The older one's going to be 12 this summer. The other one is 10. So they're coming and they're going to be with us for. They didn't come last summer, and they're going to be with us for about almost 2.5 to 3 weeks. So
Oh,
I'm really excited about that. And then we've got everything lined up. My beautiful wife has been looking at travel plans to get us out for the reunion. And instead of going to the reunion and then to Denver for 6 days and then flying back home again, looks like we're going to go out for 3 or 4 days before we go to Omaha, and then back to Denver again for another 5 or 6 days, and then back out here. And then we will have less than a month until the boys come.
Wow.
So I get to plan all sorts of grandpa stuff.
Yep. How cool is that?
It's the best.
Hmm.
I'm really thinking about a lot of really neat things that we can do together. I've always wanted to fire some rockets with them,
Why
and,
not?
and, and go get a radio controlled plane, or a big massive drone or something like that, and let them have a ball landing it and taking it off, and watching where the cameras are and all the rest. Plus all sorts of other things that we can do with the rest of the family here and the rest
Mm,
of the family out there. So yeah, no, I'm as excited as I can possibly be,
right.
and that's just how it is.
You made it sound like there was something else going on too, or
Oh, are you kidding me?
yeah.
So so all right, so I'm gonna tell you where the challenge part of it is. My dad had hip replacement surgery last Wednesday, and he's been basically, he's been a hurting unit since then, and most of the time they've kept him sedated, because he's struggling, with keeping his pick lines in and that sort of thing in the middle of the night. So they moved him last evening to rehab today, and I'll get to go see him on Friday and take his lovely bride out to lunch and what have you. But yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff that really could take the power out of the day if I were to sit here and let it happen. I've got a dear friend who is he's struggling um, with cancer, and he's been through 3 different episodes in the last 2 years. This is the first time that the chemo has actually cost him his hair. It's completely gone at this point, and he's having a reaction to the chemo where all of his pores are opening up, and he's got sores all over his body. And the two of us just keep each other pumped up and positive. He's a wonderful human being. He's actually a musician. He plays in public almost all the time. He's probably not playing right this minute, but he was well enough to go back out and go to all of his venues for about 6 or 7 months. And so we had a little bit of a chat on text today. So there's all that, and I also want you to know that I made the best sandwich that I ever had in my entire life for lunch today. You want to
What
hear
was
about
it?
my sandwich?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. So I had gone and at the deli counter and got 4 or 5 different cuts of ham and turkey breast and that sort of thing. And so I have these in there, and I can make up a sandwich with 3 or 4 different kinds of sliced meat, really good. And I have these amazing brioche buns. And I'm going to pause you right now for just a moment. Okay. This is an emergency. I'm recording a podcast and you're right in the middle of it. I'll call you back as soon as we're done. Okay. Eric will edit that out or he'll leave it because this is just one of those things that happen. That's one of my dearest friends on the planet, and he is he's struggling at the moment health wise, and pulling it together every single day. We talk to each other, and when he's calling, it's usually because there's something important going on, either with him or his wife. He and his wife got married the same day, the same year that we did back in 1976. We didn't
Wow.
know each other at the time, but we got to be tremendous friends. What's going on 47 years. And then he's got a daughter who went through leukemia 5 years ago, and just went through one of the most horrendous uh, bouts with pneumonia. She was in the
Oh,
hospital
yeah.
and she was comatose for almost 3 months. So guess what? Everybody's life has some stuff going on, right?
Everybody's.
And yeah, there's stuff to do. So why not have enjoyment while you're doing it? The world isn't going to change because you're upset and angry. All that
No,
stuff will be waiting.
I know. 'Cause one of the things that the philosophy again is, I think Pima is the one that wrote it, but, "You are the sky, everything else is just the weather, and you can do nothing about it, so live. Be
Yeah,
the sky."
I'm familiar with the weather metaphor. And it's like when we complain about things going on in our life, it comes, it goes, it changes. And, maybe it's partly cloudy tonight and monsoons tomorrow, but the sun comes out the day after that.
Yeah, and everything I always like, for the rain. To some person, if somebody's experienced a drought and you're a farmer, you're gonna look forward to the rain. If it's your wedding day, you're not gonna look so fondly upon it, but it's you can't do anything about the rain either way,
Yeah.
so
Well, and here's another kind of a take at that, in terms of the anticipation and really being attached to how it's going to look and feel and all the rest of that. I have these beautiful flowering trees all over my property. There's about a half dozen magnolias. Half of them are white. The others are southern pink magnolias, like you see everywhere. And then I've got some flowering dogwoods, white and pink, and then I have these amazing just mats of fantastic violets and other little yellow buttercuppy things. I mean, I actually love the dandelions.
mhm,
Every last one of those serves a purpose, and I've got more bumblebees this year than honeybees. They're just thousands of them,
cool.
and they're flying around and doing their bumblebee thing and having a ball. But our weather was not cooperative. They should start blooming like next week
I
in a
know.
normal year. And it's just been so warm and dry. And then we got those hot days last week. And so here's the magnolias completely open. And instead of being like that for 3 weeks or so, which is what they do most springs, within 4 or 5 days, they're dumping all their petals on the ground because there's
I
just
noticed that. I know.
not enough moisture.
Yeah.
So that doesn't take anything away from the moment. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not lining up with what I wanted and expected. And yet, this is the moment I get. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so yay.
Exactly.
Well, so just like I'm glad I noticed it, instead of, letting it just pass by, which for a lot of people are probably like, "What when did the magnolias bloom and go away?" You know?
No, it's crazy. But there just isn't even that's not the kind of thing that would come up in normal conversation with people. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think people would have to be in my world, we'd have to have enough of the mundane conversation out of the way first. That communication stuff that's important about this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
Um, but Facebook is a good outlet for me because I take my pictures, I post them up there, and then people ooh and ah over all my lovely flowers. But I got weeds, man. I got the
Yay.
world's best crop of weeds like you've ever seen in your whole life. We put nothing on them. And I was listening to a YouTube video yesterday that explained to me the miracle of white vinegar.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you know that white vinegar in different concentrations can go from being a fertilizer to actually being something that will kill weeds, but not kill plants and regular other stuff? I didn't know any of that. A little bit of
I know it's a
soap.
miracle liquid. Can do so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, back to wonder. There's wonder like I don't know, like I wonder, And then there's wonder like, holy cow, what just happened to me?
Mhm.
And there's a thrownness to want to experience that again, right? That was like really cool. And that sunset. I used to say this when I was out in California visiting because I went out there quite regularly back in the 1990s. And whoever I was with, oh man, I wonder if the people living over there, in Carmel, looking out to the west, ever say, "Oh, hon, look, another absolutely gorgeous sunset." That's the wine. Can you possibly get tired of something like that?
Well, that's like my sister and her husband and my nephew, they live on a beautiful old Victorian on a main street, and, we often go out on the porch, but we also notice that nobody else does, and or people that never open the blinds or the windows or
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fortunate enough, like, my brother-in-law's family has a cottage in Rhode Island, and they all adore it. They all can't wait to get there, and it never changes. And that's like or a swimming pool that nobody uses. It's like, how do you just let those things go?
Well, okay, so you're describing me for the better part of my adult life. I have been surrounded by really cool things that I just never took advantage of.
Ooh.
All right, so I'll give you like prima facie evidence, like what a butthead I am. Do you realize I had my wife and I had we had seasons tickets to the men's and women's Yukon basketball team from 2005 to 2004. And you
No.
know how many national championships those guys won during that period of time? First the men, and I loved that bumper sticker said, "Yukon, where men are men and women are champions." You know, rub that in all through the 90s
Yeah.
till 99. Yeah, till 99 when we had that miracle. So, but no, we never went to a national championship. Can you imagine that?
No. I have
No,
a friend of
there's a
mine that went
long, long list.
a friend of mine went to the women's nationals every year. I don't thi she hasn't
Yeah.
done it in a few years though, but every year, and that was it's always in a cool place, obviously. They they make sure that happens.
Those rascals are up to something, aren't they? They want to make sure there's lots of opportunities for you to be separated from your money when they're
That's right.
when they're having
That's
a big weekend.
yeah, here's the red carpet. Follow it.
So, what are the next big things for you?
Well, and that's so the it doesn't matter, and everything is a new thing now, I love having like, buying that ticket today or hopefully buying that ticket today for, a concert in June or, making small plan that things that already happened, but, kinda like serendipitous kind of happenings and they always work out and I'm walking with a friend tonight in the park and to see how everything's newly green and try to avoid the poison ivy because I know she gets it easily. Um, but things like it doesn't matter. Everything's gonna be fun and exciting, and I mean, I do, like we all do. I unfortunately have a funeral to attend on Friday, and, it's my brother-in-law's dad, and he was the sweetest man. Fortunately, we had Easter with him, but, on the flip side, I have Friday off, and it's supposed to be a gorgeous day. So, we can celebrate him and, you know, like, it was sad, but it's
So,
not tragic, as my sister
what
says.
what you just presenced for me that I took away from was these continuous in and outs of getting different bits of news from people, like who passed, who has Lewy body dementia. It's like it could become the overbearing, overpowering disempowerment of the year. I mean, we could spend a lot of time hanging out there.
And
And a
most
lot of
people
people,
would yeah, and most people would lead with those things. You know,
yeah.
I just don't. I don't feel the need to lead with them anymore. It's
Agreed. Agreed. And the really cool thing about it is that the wonder is partly the celebration of the memory, like the feeling that you and I have about hearing of somebody else's bad fortune. Like we use the word bad fortune. No, this is in the book, in the big book of shit happens. There are some things that don't work out. Okay. Unfortunately, Jim Morrison was correct. Nobody gets out alive. So, that being the case, what a remarkable opportunity for a moment to just be joyful about, yeah, we got to spend some really amazing times together. And an example on Facebook within the last couple of days, a dear friend of mine that I have not seen since before COVID. She used to work with my sister Diane at a newspaper here, local newspaper, 25 years ago, and they were good buddies. And so, out of the blue, she posted on her page, and it went into my feed, a picture of her and three other employees of the newspaper that were in St. Louis for some kind of an annual event, and one of those was my sister Diane.
mm,
And there she was, just plain looking all happy, and they were all joyful and having a ball. And you can make a lot of stories up about the four different women that were in that picture. But seeing her, I thought to myself, I had a half a dozen little thoughts. One was, wow, that's really amazing. I wonder if I can just share her. No, she doesn't have it where I can share it. I'm going to have to do some engineering here to take a picture of it and then squash, crop it off and all the rest. And then, okay, so now I'm going to post it on my thing. Who is this going to upset any of my family seeing a picture of our deceased sister? Well, no, let's give it a shot. But
right.
all that happened like in a millisecond.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I guess that's the normal sequence of events. And for me, um, the remarkable part of it is finishing when I finish. The thoughts don't stop.
Mhm.
Have you ever noticed that?
Mhm.
They don't stop until you make a decision and do what you're going to do. And if
There's
we
a
weren't
there's
talking,
a yeah,
go ahead.
the hardest part a podcast I listen to is like the hardest part of life is the time between the knowing and the doing.
Yeah,
And I mean and people put and then if you think about it, you go, "Oh yeah, that's true. I did know that. I should have done that a long time ago." You know?
yeah,
But and you could stall even doing the simplest things like posting a picture. You could just argue with yourself till doomsday. And if you want to post a picture. You with the
yeah.
outcome later or whatever, if there is one, or just stop making up outcomes.
Well, there is a mechanical set of fundamentals, in that whole process. The first
Yeah.
thing is the trigger, right? So there's the trigger, and for most people, there's the trigger, there's the action, and then the consequence. However, the training is to have the trigger and then take a moment, for a thought, for some thinking, for some question, whatever, then choosing the action, taking the action, and living with that consequence, and then starting the process over again until it works. When people stop and it's not working, they're making a choice to invite misery in to sit beside them on the couch.
Well, you can have a chat.
Yeah, as opposed to, you know what? We're just not done here. That didn't work. Now here comes try number 73. And when are you done?
Well, because that's how everybody felt sorry for the guy that made 6 up.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, you're not done till they throw dirt in your face. I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we're all going there someday.
Oh, I know, because I always say that to myself, like, "Well, it works until it doesn't," it keeps working until it doesn't work, and then it does and then it won't but at one point, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But then you have well, okay, I resign myself to that fact too, and, well, gotta live anyhow, so
So that's a very interesting perspective, and the the whole notion of choice. When
Right.
something happens that you didn't choose, but it's what happened, you do have the ability to choose that thing and experience it fully just as it is, for everything it is and everything it isn't.
That's my other thing that I bought a coin. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but there's a gentleman that does the Daily Stoic, and he created these coins. It's made by the same people that do the AA coins, the anniversary coins. But one of his sayings that quotes that he loves is "Amor fati," which is "Love your fate," and not. So I bought it because I loved it so much. It's like not just to accept your fate, but to adore it,
Choose it.
to love
Yeah.
it.
Glorify it.
Right. Celebrate it. Everything. And it's hard to do.
Yes.
Simple. Simple in statement, but it's hard to but it's fun to do. That I think that's to me, it's like a mini challenge every minute of every day.
It's almost, the being upset in the present has usually nothing to do with the present at all. It is a story that you and I have gotten lost in, and we are no longer the author of, but we're riding along with it as if the narrative is already written in stone. And to that extent, when we're no longer able to step back from it a little bit and or maybe get the 30,000-foot view and basically say, yeah, if that happens, I'll be okay.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't happen, holy
Also
mackerel, what a life, you know?
yeah, and that's how I order weather too, because I just picture what it'd be like if it couldn't rain, and then the universe hears me and they go, "Well, we'll just give her a nice day anyhow." She seems like a nice person.
What the hey, And I really do believe, in my heart of hearts, it's actually a construction that you can design the weather. Have you ever sat and caused a cloud to disappear or disappeared a traffic jam?
Mhm.
It's entirely possible. And when it all comes to an end, you can take full credit for it. And who cares if that's what was going to happen anyway?
I think sometimes because when ordering the weather, I think the brilliance of it too is like if it doesn't work out that way,
Yes.
I forget that one. It's creative memories, so
That
I
was
remember.
just practice. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
practice. My goodness. Well, I almost feel like we've had an hour to get together and have lunch and really
Mhm.
enjoy each other's company. And I adore you. I think you're one of the neatest people, and I appreciate again how I feel when I'm thinking about you to the max. I really do. And
And that's how I judge who I spend my time with too, how you feel about actually when you're in the presence of that person and after you leave too. Like,
yeah,
it still brings a smile to your face, which, these conversations always do for me as well.
yeah. So we've had what I would like to call an intimate uh, conversation between, well, fairly long time buds. What do we go back now? Maybe 6, 7 years?
Probably 6,
Seems
I
like
think. Yeah.
seems like that. Seems longer, but like I've always known you.
Well, anything that will make time seem like it's longer these days
Yeah.
is a godsend.
Well, I think we're getting close to wrap up time, as uncomfortable as that makes me feel to talk about. And I will definitely look forward to, with joy in my heart, our next get together. And likely it'll be with another group of people, and it's perfect. Absolutely every time.
It is.
So I will wrap our podcast with my usual request and ask of all of our folks listening at home, and you too. Please call somebody, text them, Contact them any way that you want or can. Carrier pigeon, doesn't matter. Let them know. Just let somebody know how good the world is for you because they are in it.
Because people don't know until you tell them.
It's a small thing, and it might move mountains for you and for them. So we are lighting the candle, a world that works. And again, this has been an amazing hour spent with you, my good friend.
You too.
All right. Bye for now, everybody.
Have a good week.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, a world that works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us each week, as well as the rest of the network, at exvadio.com/podcasts, as well as the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts.